Hey guys, Quantum here, and I'm going to do something I've never done before, and that is a real-life deck profile and a bit of a introduction to Disney Lorcana if you come from the game of Yu-Gi-Oh like I did. I've decided to take a break from Yu-Gi-Oh, don't know if it's going to be permanent yet, but I've really enjoyed getting into the game of Lorcana. Now, I know that there's been some stock issues and finding product has been hard, but this video is actually pretty timely because it was announced that reprints for the first and second sets will be hitting North America both at the local game stores and in big box stores before the holiday, so most likely in December. The first set and the second set will likely retain their value because it's Disney, first of all, and if you guys, are card players, like Yu-Gi-Oh, Legend of the Blue Eyes White Dragon, especially first edition, and like Magic, Alpha, Beta, etc. You see how much those cards are worth today, 10, 15, 20 years later. A Disney game that's actually fun to play, has a decent player base, people are actually enjoying this game, showing up to tournaments, there's a competitive scene, there's a huge collectability behind it as well. This game will undoubtedly retain its value. I'm pretty, don't want to say guarantee, but there's a high likelihood. I do want to just talk a little bit about the pricing. Just for showing up and playing for free in a local game store, that's a registered Lorcana store, we were able to get 2 pins, and again, I'm not going to sell anything, but just value-wise, these were going for like $40 Canadian each. That's 80 bucks for free, just showing up and playing. And because I won my Lorcana League for the month of September, I got some extra promos, and these were going for 30. I think they're down to like 20, 25 each now. So, over $100 worth of stuff just for showing up and playing for the past 5 weeks or whatever, right? Pretty good value for free so far. Before I go any further, I do just want to address one thing with the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Let's see, is this the deck I want? No, this is the in real life Flow Underease deck. We won't go over that just yet. When I was at one of my, local Lorcana days, one of the players there is actually a pretty big Yu-Gi-Oh! Player as well. And we decided to have a fun casual game, and this is a more fun deck that I decided to build. But I went first, winning the coin toss, and my opponent had one interruption. I think it was an Imperm in hand. I was able to play through it, and I ended on a Hope Harbinger. I did not end on a Chaos Angel, I don't think, but it didn't matter. I ended on a Baron de Fleur. So this is Spell Negate, Omni Negate. My opponent has 4 cards in hand, right, going second, because they used an Imperm on me. I ended on an Imperm. I had a Crossout Designator in hand, and I had it set. And I had an Ash Blossom in hand, and I think I was able to search out the Ghost Ogre as well with this one, if I can find. It's a 1-of right in the deck, so if I could find it, there it is, because you searched this off of the Jam Dragon, I believe. I believe that's how I did it. So I had more than 5 interruptions, and the opponent obviously drew 5 cards for this 5th card for his turn. And, he does something, negate spell, he does something with a monster, negate with Imperm, he tries to search something, negate with Ash, he tries to do something else to activation, destroy with Ghost Bell. I don't even think I needed the crossout, but then I still had the Omni negate, and then during, going through all 5 of his cards he couldn't play. And then, my turn, tech out Baron, bring back Xiamen, go through the whole motion again, draw cards because I had field spell up. Going first, I completely locked the opponent out of the game. There's nothing that they can do. They only drew 1 hand trap, and I was still able to play through it. I don't want to play a game where I do that to my opponent, or my opponent does that to me, because how is that fun? And don't worry, I'm not too rough with these cards, even though it might sound or look like that. I do try to keep everything nice and clean and well taken care of. So to play this game, you start off with 7 cards in your opening hand. Okay, and the nice thing about this, one of the pluses over Yu-Gi-Oh! If you're a Yu-Gi-Oh! Player, is, with Yu-Gi-Oh! You draw your opening hand and you're like, well, I've bricked, or I only have like a couple playable cards. If my opponent puts up 1 or 2 negates or, whatever, I just can't play. First of all, with 7 cards, more cards in your opening hand, fantastic. The second thing is anything with this inkable icon in the top left means that it's a resource that you can play ink for. Then I can exert it and play my cards that cost that much, right? So if I end up having like 4 inkable cards, I can play cards that cost 4. Right? I exert 3 resources, I play the card that costs 3 or 4, right? And any card in the game that has this inkable icon, which is what most of your deck will consist of, is a resource. So right there, you won't brick most likely. But the more important thing is that in your opening hand, when you draw your 7 cards, if you go first, you don't draw for turn. If you go second, you will draw your 8th card. But both players look at their opening hand and they might say, well, I don't want these 2 cards because they're not inkable or something. Like this is actually a pretty good hand to go first with, actually, or second. But if you draw something like, a Be Prepared, an Ursula in this case, these are non-inkable because they don't have that inkable icon, and they're very high cost. You don't want to see these in the beginning of the game. So let's pretend that we drew a hand like this. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I only have 3 inkable cards. I have nothing to play early game. What am I going to do? If I was in a desperate situation like this, I might decide to mulligan 4 cards in total. Because even though, I might draw pretty good off the top, and I might want to keep these cards, I don't want to risk bricking. So I can actually mulligan for 4, put back 4 cards, and I don't have to show my opponent, put those back, and then just draw, the cards to refill my hand. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now look at my hand. It went from unplayable with 4 cards that I couldn't even play and are uninkable, I can't even use them as resources, to cards I can play as resources, low costing cards to get my game going early. So after you draw, then you put these cards back into your deck and you shuffle up your deck, right? And now you can decide to play. So just the way that this game is designed, you will be able to play the game back and forth. So, if I go first, I ink a card, I show my opponent what I'm inking, so, a Goofy that has the inkable icon, and for a 1-drop, I might decide to play my shield. And then my opponent goes, they draw for turn, they play, their resource, and they might decide to play something. Then it passes back to me. Now I draw. Okay, and by the way, read what this card does, Yu-Gi-Oh players. Draw 2 cards, pot of greed. We played 4 of this in the deck. It can be played for free. If you exert a 3-cost character, you don't use any resources. It's absolutely busted. It's why we love the color purple. No pun intended there for the movie. But anyways, let's say we decide to, ink another card here. And then, not that you'd normally do this, but we're going to go ahead and play Broom because it costs 2. And, this card has an effect that we can't use right now. But this has Summoning Sickness. Everything in this game, you can't really use it as soon as it's played unless it has an inherent ability. Like Maleficent says, when you play this character, you may draw a card. But I can't quest with it. This card can quest for 1. So that's how you win the games. You get to 20 lore. And it can't challenge opponents' cards that are exerted or anything. It can't do anything until the next turn when the ink has dried. So because of that, you can already see that this game is inherently slower, which is good because it means both players are able to play. In contrast to Yu-Gi-Oh, is that, every new set that comes out essentially has a $100 card that basically the only reason to open that new set for, unless there's a new archetype in there, you're just opening it for the new broken card, right? Think like Triple Tactics Thrust or something like that. And when you play Yu-Gi-Oh, let's look at a set like Wild Survivors with Vanquish Soul. Pretty cool deck, but very expensive to make. You have to buy a lot of individual singles or a lot of boxes of Wild Survivors in order to get the full archetype, and the deck essentially builds itself. With this, the way the deck building works is you can only use up to 2 colors, and what's nice is each color kind of specializes in something unique. But with any combination of cards and or supporting archetypes, not archetypes, but colors, it allows for a lot more diversity in deck building. Yes, there are, and there will likely be additional like archetype specific things. Like these things don't really mean too much right now. Like Aurora is a Floodborn hero princess. There will be like princess decks. There is kind of one already. But for the most part, you just tech in cards that are good. You tech in cards that support each other. And there is no like, I have to build the deck a certain way. I have to build tier limits. I have to build Vanquish Soul in order, I need these specific cards in order to build the deck. You can get away, like these cards are, uncommons, and I'm winning matches with these cards just because of the pressure that they put on board. Your strategy and the way that you build your deck, you don't need the most expensive cards to win. Yes, it will help you. Obviously, there is a meta, and the better cards are, better for a reason. But I think that skill in this game, at least right now, plays a tad more of a significant role over just pay to win, so to speak. And it's really nice, it's really refreshing to know that I don't get severely punished for not having the most newest techable broken card in the game. And I don't want to fault Yu-Gi-Oh for that. I think that's more of a result of how the game has evolved after being around for so long. This is a brand new game. It hasn't got to that point. It probably will in 10-15 years, who knows. But it's nice to get into it now and enjoy it for what it is. And so a lot of back and forth, a lot of interactive gameplay, very fun. And if you are interested in it, make sure you stay tuned on the channel. I might go back to Yu-Gi-Oh! One day if I have some extra time, but right now I don't. And the small amount of free time I do have, I am dedicating to this game. So if you've made it this far in the video, thank you again for watching, and let me know in the comment section below if you actually like this style of video. I'll be happy to make more in real life content. That's going to wrap it up for now. Thank you again. Quantum is out.